The number one complaint that I hear from new investors of real estate is, I don't have enough money to get in the game. I mean, Kris, a 20% down payment, I would need $50,000 to $100,000. Or even if it's a primary residence, to buy a home for me, maybe I need $10,000 or $20,000. But is there a way to get into the investing game for like a few $1,000s? Now, today I'm going to share with you 5 different options that you have for investing. And I'm going to be honest, some of them are not that exciting. I think others are way more exciting, but I want to give you all your options. These are the top 5 options for how you can take a small amount of money, like $3,000, and start investing it today. The first option is what's called a high yield savings account, or a CD, a certificate of deposit. Literally, these are held at your FDIC insured banks. And basically the bank is saying, we'll give you a return on your money, because when we deposit it, we get 10 times as much money that we can lend out. So yeah, we'll totally make it worth your while to get something off of your money that you deposit with us, because we're gonna turn around and we're gonna make a whole lot more money. Now, CDs, or certificate of deposits, are deposits with a fixed interest rate and a maturity date. Basically says, give me your money for 6 months or for a year or 2 years, and how long you put it with me as a bank is gonna determine the return that we're gonna give you. It's also important to note that CDs are very low risk. Like, the bank will insure up to $250,000 in a bank account. So it's like if you're gonna put $3,000 or $10,000 into an account, they've got you covered. Now, traditionally, CDs will pay out 2 or 3 or 4%, but in 2024 of September, we saw CDs with returns as high as 4%, 5%, and even 5.5%. Now, these are lower returns compared to other investments, but if you had $3,000 and you wanted to know, Kris, where could I stash it, have it safe, and get something on my money? A CD could be a very basic place to do that and earn something kind of right around inflation, which means your money is neither really going up in value, it's not really losing value, it's just staying static. Number 2 is peer-to-peer lending platforms. There's companies out there that basically say, hey, we've got a bunch of people that are requesting loans, even in very small amounts, and if you put money out there, we'll basically help you get some kind of return on your money. Now, you are going to get higher interest rates here compared to traditional savings or different investment accounts. And it does give you the opportunity to invest in a variety of different loans. And peer-to-peer lending does give you diversification and an opportunity to invest with a variety of loans and borrowers. But you should be advised that with higher returns does come some higher risks, because some borrowers could actually default. You might actually risk losing your money. But in general, peer-to-peer lending is where you go for slightly higher returns. According to Bankrate, typical returns on peer-to-peer lending platforms average between 5 to 9%. And while 5 to 9% won't necessarily get you rich, it's definitely better off than what you would just get in a CD or a basic bank account. All right, climbing the charts, maybe for higher returns, getting a little bit more exciting, is number 3, the stock market. And I think we all kind of know what the stock market is. I'm not talking about selecting individual companies and making bets on the ones that might go sky high. I'm talking about something as basic as the S&P 500. Basically, the 500 most successful companies on the stock market. They've already had their heyday, they've grown, they've exploded, and now they've stabilized in the marketplace. You do get an opportunity for a lot of diversification, because with the S&P 500, you're basically investing in the 500 most stable and successful companies. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your money, it's going to get deposited in all of these different companies just a little bit, and some will perform well and some might underperform, but on average, they tend to produce a pretty stable ROI. According to Business Insider, the average stock market return is between 8 and 10% a year. So peer-to-peer was between 5 and 9%. Now we're getting up to that 8 to 10% amount. And there is going to be some fluctuation in the stock market. Like every 7 years, the stock market definitely fluctuates. And if you had money in the S&P 500 last month, you might have found that you lost 10% of your money in that account. But the stock market always rebounds to where it was at previously or higher inside of 3 years. So the stock market is definitely a long game, and it's not always a very easy game to time. But out of our 3 options we've stated so far, here you're actually beating inflation at a higher level, but there's definitely going to be some higher risk due to market volatility and things that you just can't control. The 4th option is real estate crowdfunding. Now, real estate crowdfunding platforms allow you to invest in different real estate projects or properties with relatively low minimum investments. So you don't need a $50,000 or an $80,000 down payment on a single family home. You have a chance to access a variety of real estate projects and opportunities with a lot less money. So for just a moment, think about crowdfunding on a skyscraper, or maybe it's a master planned community and they're going to put in 300 units. And when you do this, your money is typically going to be locked up for years, not months, and it's got to be in there for the completion of these larger projects. And crowdfunding deals typically pull in between 5 and 15%. Now you've got a bigger range here, because if they don't perform as well, maybe you're going to be in the low single digits, but here you at least have the possibility to be backed by a hard asset, something physical, something tangible, and the possibility of a higher return now does exist as well. The fifth option is my brand new real estate fund called the Kronos Fund. After 20 years of investing and having done thousands of projects, I decided to put my first public fund together where everyone can put in even small amounts of money, like $3,000 or potentially more money. And now we're going to go in and take advantage of my 20-year track record on single family homes where I'm averaging significantly higher returns. My strategy, I only go in the top 5 markets out of 324 markets, and that's usually how I create a really massive ROI. For example, when partners actually invest with me one-on-one in an LLC and we go to a bank and we get financing, they do require a lot more than $3,000. It might be $50,000 or it might be a couple $100,000. But that's because we're going to build a portfolio of single family homes. And over the last 9 years, I've averaged returns as high as 60.65% year over year. Those returns are amazing, but they do require a lot more money, which is why I've necessitated the Kronos Fund that says if you've got $3,000, you can now get in as a group on investments, and let's talk about those returns. When I put money in a fund, I get a lot less leverage on my real estate, and that brings my ROI down. On my last several funds, we're averaging between 25 and 30% each year. So when you compare that to all the options that we've looked at, that is by far the highest ROI, and it's backed by $2 billion worth of real estate experience and transactions over the last 20 years. And while I can't guarantee that my past performance is going to be my future performance, we do have the ability to look at track record and say, well, how have we performed year over time? I love to publish those stats and those numbers. And the past does become an opportunity to evaluate what possibilities in the future can look like. So let's lock this down. If we start out with CDs, we might get between 4 and 5.5%. If we advance to the stock market, we might get between 8 and 10%. Next, if we go to peer-to-peer lending, we might get between 5 and 9%. If we graduate to something like the S&P 500, we might get between 8 and 10%. If we go to crowdfunding, we might go from 5 to 15%. And with the Kronos Fund, you might see yourself getting between 25 and 30%. In making a choice for yourself, you have to evaluate, how long is my money going to be in? How liquid is it going to be? What is my ROI potential? And after evaluating all that, if you found, for example, that you wanted to invest in a CD, you can do that at your own local bank. Or on the flip side, if you're like, Kris, I've actually wanted to partner with you. I thought I needed a lot more money, but if you're saying $3,000 is all it takes to get in on your deals, then you can click the link below and learn about my brand new Kronos Fund, and you can get in on some of the sweetest real estate that I've ever made available to the public before. Click the link below, learn all about it right now. Now with the Kronos Fund, everyone can invest in real estate with me for the first time ever. But if you want to know why some people still choose to partner with me and seek me out in a one-on-one partnership, let's talk about what happens there and what type of returns are possible. Click right here and let's explore partnering with Kris Krohn.